whether that's from up top with the U.S. Soccer Presidency down to how coaches are being coached to coach our kids and how we're finding talent and what really matters. It was a huge, major letdown not qualifying for the World Cup, and
Right.
sometimes those bitter lows are what enable you to get back to the heights that you need to be at and you want to be at. And as painful as that moment was, as painful as that night still resonates with me, I do see a half full glass approach from it, in that I think it's going to offer us an opportunity to make things better. It's like looking at, I'm a bit of an environmentalist, so I look at like electric cars out here in California, and I just say, why doesn't everybody have them? Why are they so damn expensive? At some point that's going to tip, and everybody's going to say, of course we're driving an electric car. Why would we want to burn all these fuels, and it's cost so much, and it's costing X, Y, and Z, things like that. There's just a common sense approach to a lot of things, and I think we're at a very common sense moment for U.S. soccer. I don't know how radical the changes are going to be going forward,
Right.
but I think there's going to be enough, whether it's big surgeries or minor cleanups, that the game, men's and women's, professional, amateur, collegiate, youth, is going to be put on a better, more streamlined, direct path.
Well, Rob, you've covered the game, obviously, internationally. You've hosted, I think it was 2013, the Champions League at Wembley. You've obviously 1998 World Cup. You did broadcasting for the 2006 World Cup, traveled America. Culturally speaking, is American soccer there? Because I feel like the culture of U.S. soccer and just club soccer here in America is unlike anything we've seen as far as the major sports.
When you say, is it there, what defines there?
Well, I would say in the sense that soccer is here in America. Like we've talked about earlier in this interview, how I asked you, has it arrived? I've heard radio personalities say that no, soccer is dead because we failed to qualify for the World Cup.
How to the levels of NFL, college football, NBA? No. But damn, we're close, and we're closer than we've ever been. And there's a lot of different metrics people can look at, and you can make your argument based on that. But if you start looking at attendance numbers of just kind of MLS or national teams or big tournaments that come to our country, look, that's on par. That's fine. That works. That fits in to the fact that you want to say we've arrived. You look at the television ratings, not across the board, but certainly for some of these major events, absolutely. There's the marketers understand it. The television space is there, but is it in our daily conversation? Look, I don't believe in all these, the Fox Sports and the ESPN morning talk shows and debate shows. That's just not me. I'm not saying it's wrong or right. That's just not who I am. But you got to look long and hard to find a soccer conversation somewhere in there, right or wrong. And until that gets kind of broken, and it might, the World Cup this summer might change that. The Women's World Cup win a couple summers ago, tweaked it for a few days here and there, but in the end, they move on. So until it becomes more of a constant talking point, and it's as big of a talking point on a daily basis as it's ever been in our country, but we still realize that there's plenty of growth to go. There's still a lot of educating to go out there, but the kids these days know so much more about soccer in their grade school years than I did really in college, that it's hard to say that we haven't really arrived. And I really think this generation, these kids, my kids, I've got 4 kids, but I think it's that generation, that age group, really close to where you guys are, that is going to be that next tipping point, because these kids have been raised with the game. They've been educated by their parents, whether it's watching games or playing games or getting better coaching. They've all had it better than we've had it in the soccer conversation, and it's not even close. And I think when that age group becomes parents, everything changes, because this is the age group that's not sitting around watching baseball games or wanting to play baseball or things like that. I'm not knocking on baseball, but I'm just saying, in an age where, generations ago you grew up watching the St. Louis Cardinals on your dad's or your grandfather's lap, and that's all you did all summer long and all spring, and you hope they made the playoffs. That doesn't happen anymore. Instead, it's parents like me in my generation, taking their kids to MLS games, taking them to NWSL, watching the World Cup, watching the Champions League, watching the Bundesliga, and that's changing the dynamic of this sport in a way that I don't think enough people really give respect to.
And Rob, I kind of want to shift gears towards the U.S. Soccer Presidency. Many, including your former colleague Eric Winalda, are calling to basically open up U.S. soccer, have an open system. We spoke with Peter Wilt on our latest episode. He created NISA. That league he's trying to rival MLS with a pyramid. Do you want to see pro rel in U.S. soccer? Would that be something that would benefit MLS?
Yeah, I'm really kind of torn on that, and I think in the end, if I had a gun to my head, I would say no. I don't want to see it right now, just because I'm not convinced that we can handle it on so many different aspects, and that's more of a business, and I'm not a business guy. I wholeheartedly cheer for teams in USL. Look, you're going to be hard to find a bigger fan of the Tampa Bay Rowdies in the media out there than me, and I have constant contact with NPSL teams like Providence City or Hartford City. I follow these teams. I cheer for them. I want them to do well because I love it. It warms me. It gives me this great hope. I buy their gear. I do what we can. But in the end, I don't know if there's enough space for this top tier soccer league where teams come and go. Just because there are so many outside pressures and demands on these clubs that I'm not sure everybody is aware of, that it's hard to properly compete. I mean, we're seeing it in MLS right now where there are the haves and the have-nots.
Right.
And the have-nots in MLS are still really wealthy people who still put in millions and millions of dollars into this investment. And that's not to belittle some of the smaller clubs in wherever you want to say across our country. But, if you just take a team in, I don't know, I'm just going to say Des Moines, Iowa, for no reason at all. Do they have the resources? Do they have the money? Do they have the stadium? Do they have the population to support an MLS team? The TV markets and the marketers out there are going to say, no offense to Des Moines, but I need to be in Dallas. I need my product to be here, not here, to make a greater impact. I love the passion of the pro rel, at least the sane people in the pro rel conversation, because there's some crazy ones out there. And I get it, and I do understand, the fight to be with the big boys, and why should we constantly be held back? But my brain kind of keeps going back to this thought that if the Premier League was starting today, right, and a bunch of billionaires, millionaires came together and they said, here's what we're going to do, da-da-da-da-da. And then you're going to say, oh, and by the way, yeah, you could be in a lower league as soon as 9 months. And those businessmen and owners would look at you and go, you're crazy. Like, why would I put all of this capital up front only to know that there's a decent percentage chance that I could lose it by just losing on the field? Not to mention how much you're losing, off the field as well, with, how much it takes to build up a club. I mean, look at Minnesota right now, Minnesota United. Everybody's kind of punching them right now for, not spending a ton of money and getting these player acquisitions. Well, guess what? They're spending millions upon millions upon millions, hundreds of millions to build that beautiful brand new stadium that we're all looking forward to. Atlanta didn't have to build a stadium. They just moved in to the Falcons, home that their owner built for them. And that's one of the reasons, not the, but one of the reasons Atlanta, I think, is so free spending out there. And I give them a ton of credit. They are leading this new wave charge in MLS. But, should we expect teams in smaller cities and towns to be able to compete with what Atlanta is throwing out now and what the Galaxy have thrown out and what LAFC is going to do and NYCFC? I don't know. And I don't know if American soccer can really handle / care about a top-tier league, MLS, that is constantly in fluctuation and dealing with, wow, we got this new club here, but the biggest stadium they have in their town or the 20-mile radius is 5,000. right? I mean, not
right.
every city has got a stadium that's big enough to really hold what you would want for an EPL team or an MLS team. So I think there's a lot of, I just feel like there's a lot of potholes on that path right now. Down the road, I do think it's something that we should continue to consider and continue to look at and find a structure. And you know what? I think my guess is that if somebody asked me about how they would go about it, I would say, well, let's try this pro-rel because, well, look, NASL is bantering on about pro-rel. They don't even have it, right? They're lucky to have a league right now. And I'm not trying to knock down NASL. I was a big fan of them. And that they really were my gateway to professional soccer as a kid. So maybe we need to come up with this, tiered level in USL and NPSL and whatever it is. Say, all right, well, you win X, you got a chance to move up here with these kind of smaller clubs, smaller budget clubs that can sustain it and can handle that growth, because that's not a huge step. These are like incremental steps. And let's see how that goes. And if that goes well, then I think, maybe we do need to talk to the big boys. And again, MLS is still a baby. It's still an infant. It's still trying to, find its way, to grade school. It's still really in kindergarten if you look at it compared to the big leagues in the world there. So I know a lot of people are jumping on MLS and saying you're holding these people back, and why not open the pro-rel? There's a part of me that's saying, look, MLS is just trying to survive to the next day. And I love that league. They're trying to grow. They're trying to get stronger. They're trying to increase their brand. They're overworked and understaffed as it is. And now you want to add this component. I think it really muddies the water at this moment in the American soccer landscape. But I'm not opposed to continuing to talk about it. And, maybe down the road in another 5, 10, 15, 20 years, this is a discussion that has to happen and action should be taken.
Well, it's interesting. I think a lot of us who are rational soccer guys realize nothing's going to happen overnight. But there is a trend. But obviously, with your former colleague Eric Winalda, you have other candidates, Winograd, Steve Gans, who've had some sort of ideas of pro-rel. Have you supported any U.S. soccer presidential candidates?
Nope, I haven't, and I won't.
It's
not. I don't feel it's my place. I admire all the candidates, for sticking their neck out and fighting for something they believe in, and spending time and money and effort and energy away from their families to do something for the good of the game. I don't know enough about everybody's resume to make a statement. My belief is that, and my hope is that, in the end, the people who do have the voting will come to a proper decision. And my guess is I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of the candidates come together and find a way to say, hey, let's become a team. You can still be the president, but I'm your technical director, I'm your GM, or I'm whatever. Let me handle the soccer stuff. And I think that's one of the main things. I think, I can't speak for Eric Winalda, a longtime friend of mine, but I think that's one of his main things is he wants soccer guys and gals involved. And I think we all do. I think it's been a little too administrative over the last couple of decades, and it's time for real soccer people who've got the knowledge and the touch and the taste of the game in their DNA to be in a position where they can make some influence and can make some decisions that positively impact the sport here.
Well, what do you make of the entire U.S. presidential election in the sense that do you think there's going to be a lot of change coming from whoever is elected?
I don't. I think, like I said, I think there's going to be some cleanup surgeries, some outpatient type stuff. But as far as, major bypass type stuff, I don't see it because I don't think we're that far off. There are definitely some things that are wrong and can be rectified and tightened. And again, I think a lot of it just goes back to the soccer side. Like I just want some soccer people involved to say, guys, why are we doing A when we should really be doing B? Or at least let's look at this. Or, hey, this is working in Spain and Germany. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work in our country, but maybe let's try it out. Or let's try a starter program in Tucson, Arizona with this type of approach and see how things work. So I think it's just time for some fresh blood, some new thinking, and some creative angles to attack some of the problems. And there's a lot of problems out there in U.S. soccer, but it's a big country. It's a big growing sport.